Usually when people talk about Dune, the conversation, it just goes straight to Paul Atreides. We talk about the Messiah, the Jihad, all the big destiny
The
stuff.
grand prophecies, yeah.
Exactly. But I was looking through this massive stack of materials we have for today, specifically focusing on Dune, House Harkonnen, and I realized we might be looking at the wrong things.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, we obsess over the people, the
Yeah.
heroes, the villains. But reading through these excerpts, the real story here, the thing that actually breaks the Imperium, isn't a person at all.
Okay.
It's the environment. It's the dirt, or, in this case, the sand, and the oil, and the water, or the lack of it.
That is a fantastic way to frame it, because today we are not just looking at a story about a war between families. We are basically transporting you to three worlds that are fundamentally hostile to human life, but in completely different ways.
Right.
You have the industrial nightmare of Gidi Prime, the sort of deceptive, almost suffocating paradise of Caladan, and then the absolute lethal reality of Arrakis.
And the mission for this deep dive for all of us is to figure out how these environments create the monsters and the heroes that inhabit them. We have detailed excerpts from the prequel novels by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. We have these amazing planetary maps, and we also have some very, very dry but very revealing imperial political treatises that really flesh out the context.
And one thing that jumps out immediately from these sources is the timeline. This is important. We are looking at a galaxy before Paul.
Way before.
The Emperor, Shaddam IV. He has no male heir, and he is getting deeply, deeply paranoid. The Baron Harkonnen is, believe it or not, technically still walking on his own two legs. He isn't the floating monstrosity we all know just yet.
He's getting there, though. We'll definitely get to the rot later, and trust me, it is gross. But I want to start where the source material starts. On the ground. On Arrakis.
The heart of it all.
And not in a palace or a sitch. We are in a tiny weather pod with Pardic Kynes and his son, Liet.
Right. And this is a crucial relationship to understand. You've got Pardo, the imperial planetologist. He is a certified genius, a visionary, but he is also profoundly detached from immediate human concerns.
Detached is putting it mildly. The text describes him as having this incredible single-minded focus. He's with his 12-year-old son, Liet, who also goes by his Fremen name, Weichi. They're just investigating an ancient botanical testing station, doing science stuff,
Like a normal father-son day in the desert.
And then the readings spike. There is a storm coming. But this isn't a rainstorm. This is a Coriolis storm.
Hulisikali Wala.
The wind of the demon in the open desert. I love that.
The physics here are absolutely terrifying, and I want to drill down on this for a second because it explains why Arrakis is the way it is. On Earth, a hurricane dissipates when it hits land.
Right. It loses its heat source, friction from the land, slows it down.
Exactly. On Arrakis, there is no water to slow down, and there are these vast, almost perfectly flat salt pans and plains. So the Coriolis effect, which is just the spin of the planet itself, it gets to work on the wind and just amplifies it.
Into something else entirely.
It's no longer weather. We're talking about sustained wind speeds over 700 kilometers per hour.
700. That's not just wind. That's a physical wall. That's something that strips flesh off bone.
It strips paint off steel. It turns individual grains of sand into microscopic blades that can eat through a starship fuselage in minutes. And Pardo Kynes, the father.
He's fascinated by it.
Completely. He's watching the data streams, just geeking out. Meanwhile, his son, Liet, who has grown up with a Fremen, is absolutely terrified. He knows what this really means.
This dynamic is so good. You have the father who understands the science of the storm, and you have the son who understands the spirit of it, the reality of it.
Yes. And Kynes decides to write it out. In this ancient, rickety weather pod they found, he gets this bright idea to activate the suspensors to lift them off the ground so they don't get buried.
Which, to an off-worlder, seems logical, right?
It seems perfectly logical. If you sit on the ground, the El Sayal, which is the rain of sand, it will bury you under 50, maybe 100 meters of dust, so you float above it. Simple.
But common sense isn't always common on Arrakis. They get sucked into the storm. And there is this moment in the text that feels almost religious. They break through the wall of the wind and they enter the eye of the storm.
Silence.
Absolute deafening silence. Kynes calls it a siege at the center of the storm. It's peaceful. You can hear your own heartbeat.
But it's a trap, isn't it? It's a complete illusion.
Because eventually the eye passes.
Yeah.
And the back wall of that storm hits them like a physical hammer blow.
They crash. The pod is just slammed into the dunes and buried deep instantly. And this is where the scene shifts from, a survival thriller to a straight-up horror movie.
And it really highlights the difference between imperial technology and true desert wisdom.
100%. So they're buried. It's pitch black. The air's getting thin. Kynes, the father, is trying to dig them out. But the pod is heavy, and the sand is pressing in like water.
It's alive.
So what does he do? He reaches for the control panel. He's thinking, I'll just turn the suspensors back on just for a second to help lift the pod.
And Leia screams at him, just a raw, primal scream. No, don't activate the field.
A 12-year-old kid countermanding his brilliant scientist father.
So why? I mean, I get it now, but for someone new to this, I know from the lore that personal shields attract worms, but suspensors. They are just anti-gravity, right?
Right.
Why would that summon a worm?
It comes down to the Holtzman effect. It's a great question. We often think of Holtzman generators as just shields, but the technology is really about repelling gravity and force. It's about bending space-time on a small scale. A side effect, an unavoidable one, is that it emits a specific rhythmic vibration, a harmonic pulse. To a sandworm, which hunts entirely by sensing vibrations in the sand, a Holtzman field isn't just noise.
It's a dinner bell.
The loudest, most obnoxious dinner bell in the universe. It mimics the rhythmic thumping of prey moving across the sand, but it's louder and more irritating. It drives them into a killing frenzy. It's an offense to their entire existence.
So Kynes, the brilliant imperial planetologist, almost kills them both because he relies on tech he doesn't fully understand in this context. Lyot, the 12-year-old, saves them because he relies on Fremen lore.
Exactly. Lyot forces his father to keep the field off. He makes them crawl out through a busted viewport, and then they do the Fremen walk. Step, pause, breaking the rhythm, never two steps the same.
Making themselves sound like the wind or a rock shifting, not like prey.
And they barely make it to the safety of a rock outcropping before the worm shows up. And the description in the notes here, it's not just a big snake. The text says the sand began to boil. A churning whirlpool formed around the spot where the pod was buried.
That's terrifying.
And then the mouth, a cavern filled with crystal teeth. The text mentions the smell of cinnamon and ozone, which is actually the smell of the spice manufacturing process happening inside the worm.
It swallows the pod whole. Gone. Just gone. But here is the kicker for me. The thing that tells you everything you need to know about Pardo Kynes. He watches this absolute leviathan eat his multi-million solary equipment, and he doesn't say, my God, we almost died.
No, not even close.
He says, we lost the data.
He is mourning the spreadsheet. He is mourning the atmospheric readings, not his own life or his son's.
That obsession, though, that's what drives his secret vision, because Kynes isn't just watching the weather. He's plotting to kill it. Or, well, maybe not kill it, but change it fundamentally.
This is the terraforming project. And this is where our deep dive gets really interesting, not just ecologically, but economically. To terraform Arrakis, you need biomass. You need tons, millions of tons of fertilizer.
But you can't just import megatons of manure to a secret planet without the Spacing Guild and the Emperor noticing. The shipping manifests alone would raise 1,000 red flags.
So Kynes is making his own. He's using what's available.
He's using spice.
Well, spice byproducts, to be precise. He's found a way to break down the spice premass, the stuff they find in the sand, and use its complex chemistry to set up protein digestion cycles. He's basically using it as a super fertilizer.
I really want the listener to stop and visualize this. Spice melange is the most valuable substance in the known universe. A small knife case of it can buy you a planet. The Guild needs it to navigate space-time. The Bene Gesserit need it for prescience. The wealthy nobles need it for anti-geriatric effects.
It underpins the entire galactic economy.
And Kynes is rotting it down to grow grass.
It is the ultimate economic heresy. It's a crime against the Imperium. If the Emperor knew Kynes was using the raw material for spice to grow rabbit bush and poverty grass and some hidden palmeries, he would have him executed on a live galactic broadcast.
It's like using diamonds to pave a driveway.
It's worse. It's like using gold to insulate your attic. It's a fundamental misuse of the resource from the imperial perspective. But Kynes doesn't care about the economy. The quote here is just fantastic. Nature commits no errors. Right and wrong are human categories.
He's not loyal to the Emperor. He's loyal to the biology of the planet.
And this sets up the central tragedy of the entire Dune saga. If Kynes succeeds, if Arrakis becomes green and wet, the sandworms die. Because water is a deadly poison to every stage of their life cycle.
If the worms die, the spice is gone. Forever.
The universe collapses. The Guild can't travel. Commerce stops. Interstellar war breaks out. Kynes is saving the planet, but in doing so, he's dooming the entire civilization that depends on it.
And his son, Liet, is watching all of this. He's seeing this grand, beautiful, dangerous vision, but he's also seeing the immediate cruelty of the universe. Which brings us to Bular Camp.
This is a hard pivot in the source material, a really jarring one. We go from this high-level, almost philosophical, ecological theory to visceral, on-the-ground horror.
It's a zombie movie scene. I'm not even exaggerating. Kynes and Liet arrive at this Freeman village, Bular Camp, and the people are gone.
Yeah.
They're not dead. They're insane. They're foaming at the mouth. They're tearing at their own eyes, attacking each other with their bare hands.
It's mass psychosis. Complete and utter breakdown of the human mind.
And Kynes, the scientist, he's baffled. He's looking for a virus. He's thinking maybe a bacteria in the air or a strange fungus. But Liet, the 12-year-old, he looks at the water.
He goes straight to the cistern, the village's life source, and he finds it. It's been spiked with unconverted water of life.
Okay, now hold on. We know the water of life is super important later for Paul and for the Reverend Mothers, but explain that distinction for us. Unconverted, what does that mean?
The water of life is essentially the bile of a drowned sandworm, a young one. It's a concentrated, highly potent poison. In the books, we see Reverend Mothers take this poison into their bodies and, using their Bene Gesserit abilities, they convert it internally. They change its chemical structure to make it a safe and intensely hallucinogenic drug for the siege orgies.
The spice agony.
Yes, but in its raw form, unconverted. It is a deadly neurotoxin. It doesn't just give you visions, it burns out your brain. It causes agonizing hallucinations, seizures, and a very painful death.
And someone dumped this into the entire village water supply.
Not just someone. The tracks nearby are clear. Harkonnens, a patrol passed through. And the most chilling part, the part that really sticks with you, is that there was no strategic reason for it.
They weren't trying to take the village.
No. They didn't need the water. They didn't want the land. The source material says it was a practical joke. A couple of bored Harkonnen troopers thought it would be funny to see what happened, to see what the desert scum would do.
That is the moment, isn't it, for Liet? The turning point.
It is the crucible. He sees his father, the great man of science, trying to offer comforting words to the dying villagers, trying to analyze the toxin. And Liet realizes, words don't work. Science doesn't stop monsters.
Only force stops monsters.
That is the day Liet Kynes stops being an imperial subject and starts being a Freeman warrior. He realizes that to the Harkonnens, the Fremen are not human. They are just toys to be broken for amusement.
Which is the perfect bridge to our next destination. Because if you want to understand the kind of men who would poison an entire village for a laugh, you have to look at where they come from. We have to go to Gede Prime.
If Arrakis is a world that kills you because it's fundamentally indifferent to you, Gede Prime is a world that kills you because it actively hates you.
That is a terrifying but perfect distinction. We have the maps here, the Obsidian Plain, Mount Ebony, Lake Vladimir.
Even the geography is oppressive and egotistical.
The ego, naming a lake after yourself. Especially when that lake is probably more of a toxic sludge pit.
Oh, absolutely. Gede Prime is an industrial hellscape. The sun, their star, is a dim red one, so it provides very little energy for photosynthesis. Most of the native vegetation is black because it has to evolve to absorb every last scrap of light.
And the entire population is essentially enslaved to the industrial machine. It's a planet-sized factory floor.
But we don't just see this from the top down, from the Baron's palace. The source material zooms us right in to a perspective we all know and love. Gurney Halleck.
But this isn't the Gurney we know. Not yet. This isn't the scarred, battle-hardened war master of House Atreides. This is 21-year-old Gurney. He's a peasant, a field worker.
The notes say he's been working the Palacio crop fields since he was 8 years old. Think about that. 8. His skin is already leathery, he's covered in grime, and he's eating crawl tubers, which the text describes as bland, stringy roots that just barely keep you alive enough to work another day.
Just fuel for the machine.
But despite all of this, despite the grime and the hunger and the hopelessness, he has this spark. He's a troubadour. He has his balisette.
A broken one. It's a 9-string balisette, but it's missing 2 strings.
It's all he has. And he does this other thing, this little act of defiance. He tends a small garden in some rusted-out old cookpots, pansies and lilies.
That's such a touching detail. In a world of black steel and leaking oil, he is trying to nurture something delicate and colorful. It shows a resilience of spirit that the Harkonnens haven't managed to crush.
Yet. They haven't crushed it yet. Because that very delicacy, that artistic spirit, is what puts a target on his back. There's this scene in a tavern. Gurney is playing a song. And he's young, he's angry, so he plays a satire. Oh, Gede Prime, Thy shades of black.
Mocking the Harkonnens.
And satire is the one thing totalitarian regimes absolutely cannot tolerate. You can be afraid of them, you can be angry at them, but you absolutely cannot laugh at them. Laughter implies you see through them, that you are above them.
So, of course, the door gets kicked in. It's the baronial guard, Captain Kruby. And Gurney's first thought is, okay, they're here for the song, I'm in trouble.
A reasonable assumption. But they aren't there for the song. They couldn't care less about his little musical rebellion. They are there to harvest.
Harvest? That word just makes my skin crawl. It's so dehumanizing.
They're rounding up young women for the pleasure houses and the slave pits. And they point at Gurney's sister, Beth. She's 17. The text describes her as having flaxen hair, which is a real rarity on a polluted world like Giedi Prime.
She stands out.
She stands out, and that makes her a prize. And this is the defining moment for Gurney Halleck. This is the moment the warrior troubadour is truly born, because he doesn't just stand there and let it happen.
No. He attacks. He has no weapon, just his fists and his rage. He throws himself at fully armored professional troopers. He gets his ribs cracked, his nose broken, his face smashed into the filthy floor. But he fights. He tries.
But here's the real tragedy of the scene, and it ties back to what you said about Giedi Prime being a world that hates you. He looks around the tavern. There are other men there. Friends, neighbors, people he's known his whole life. And they are doing nothing.
They're just sitting there.
Frozen. Gurney calls them sheep. And that bitterness, that disgust with the passivity of the herd, that stays with him for the rest of his life. He realizes in that moment that the Harkonnens haven't just enslaved their bodies. They've enslaved their minds. Terror has made them docile.
It's psychological warfare on a planetary scale. And that kind of culture, it always starts at the top. We have to talk about the Baron.
Vladimir Harkonnen.
Now, in the movies, in the main book, he's always this floating, grotesque figure. But in this source material, we get to see the transition. He's not floating yet, but he is rotting from the inside out.
It's presented as a mystery disease. He's gaining weight at an alarming rate. He's losing muscle control. His joints ache. He has to start walking with a cane. And he just knows that eventually he'll be completely immobile. And he is furious because he can't stop it.
And he's killing his doctors, which, honestly, that just seems counterproductive. If I'm sick, the last thing I want is for my doctor to be terrified of giving me bad news.
The Baron doesn't want news. He wants a miracle. He wants a cure. And anyone who fails to provide one is an enemy. But there is a secret here, a secret that we, the audience, get to know, even though the Baron doesn't. We know why he's sick.
It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a random virus. It was a biological attack.
A very personal one. It was the Bene Gesserit. Specifically the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohayim. Years before this, the Baron blackmailed the sisterhood. He found some dirt on them, probably related to their secret breeding program, and as payment for his silence, he demanded a child for his genetic line.
He forced Mohayim to.
Yes, he forced her to conceive a child with him. It's a horrifying violation, and Mohayim, being who she is, took her revenge in the most patient and cruel way possible. She gave him the child he demanded. We'll get back to her later. But she also used the opportunity to infect him with the genetically engineered retrovirus.
A parting gift.
The ultimate parting gift. It's designed to do one thing, destroy his metabolism, but slowly. It's designed to humiliate him as much as it kills him. It takes his vanity, and the Baron is incredibly vain about his physique at this point, and it turns it into a source of public and private disgust.
So he's desperate. He needs a doctor who can actually cure him, but he can't trust anyone because he's a Harkonnen, and he assumes, probably correctly, that everyone is as treacherous as he is.
So he needs a Suk doctor.
Imperial conditioning. These are the doctors who are conditioned from a young age. They physically cannot betray their patients. Their mental conditioning, the Suk school's great vow, prevents them from taking a life. It's like a mental block, a psychological wall they can't cross.
They are the gold standard for the wealthy and the paranoid. And they are incredibly expensive and rare. But the Baron finds a loophole. He targets House Harkonnen.
House Harkonnen. They used to be a big deal in technology, right?
They were the main rivals of House Nox. But they lost the economic war. The Tleilaxu takeover of Snox, which we'll get to, also undercut their market, so they are effectively bankrupt. The Baron invites their premier, Ein Kalmar, to a meeting on Giedi Prime.
And the setting. It's just classic Harkonnen theatrics. The room smells of old perfume and rotting meat.
He is a dead body in a closet, a political rival he just had killed.
And he leaves the closet door cracked open just a sliver. Just enough so the premier smells it and maybe gets a glimpse if he looks at the right angle. It's a power move. He's saying, without words, I can kill with impunity, and you are here begging me for money.
And it works perfectly. The premier caves. He sells out his own house's personal physician to pay off his debts. And that physician is Dr. Wellington Yu.
Yeah, the man who will eventually bring down House Atreides.
But here's the detail in this source that everyone misses. Everyone knows Yu is the traitor. But in this book, we learned his specific specialty. He isn't just a general practitioner, he is a specialist in cyborg studies and machine-human interfaces.
Wait a second. Why does the Baron, who is suffering from a biological disease, specifically want a cyborg doctor?
That is the million solari question, isn't it? The source material heavily implies the Baron is looking for more than a cure. He's looking for an upgrade. If his flesh is failing him, maybe he wants to start replacing it with superior metal. It adds this layer of transhumanist body horror to the Harkonnen plot.
He is trying to become a machine to escape his own mortality.
Which is deeply ironic, considering the entire galaxy is still living in the shadow of the Butlerian Jihad, the great war against thinking machines. But the Harkonnens never really cared about the rules, did they?
No, only when the rules apply to other people.
Exactly.
Speaking of rules and the people breaking them, let's zoom out. We've looked at the ecology of Arrakis and the personal horror of Giedi Prime. Now we need to look at the Imperial court on Khaitan, because Emperor Shaddam IV is having a very, very bad year.
He is. He is arguably the most powerful man in the universe, sitting on the Golden Lion throne. But he feels incredibly weak. And he's right to feel that way. The source material mentions that statues of him are being defaced across the empire.
Right. People are writing graffiti asking if his crown fits his pointy head.
Which is remarkably petty for an intergalactic rebellion, but it speaks to a profound lack of respect. And his biggest problem, the one that keeps him up at night, is the succession. He has no male heir. His wife, Anarul, who is a Bene Gesserit, keeps having daughters.
Urulin, Chalice, Wencetia. Good, strong Bene Gesserit names.
Very. And Shaddam suspects she is doing it on purpose. He thinks the sisterhood is manipulating him.
And he is 100% right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Bene Gesserits are controlling the gender of the children to fit their centuries-long breeding program. They don't want an emperor from this line just yet. They want the genes to go elsewhere. But to Shaddam, it just feels like he is cursed, like he is failing.
This paranoia, the sense of weakness, it sets the backdrop for a major event in the source text, the banquet on Arrakis. Now, usually dinner parties are boring. But in Dune, a dinner party is just a battlefield with better napkins.
This is a classic scene. It's a celebration for Count Hasimir Fenring, the Emperor's childhood friend, and the Imperial observer on Arrakis. He's been there for 10 years, supposedly keeping an eye on the Harkonnens for the Emperor.
And Fenring is a piece of work all on his own. He's building this massive conservatory on Arrakis, a wet planet garden with fountains and rare flowers from Caladan, in the middle of a desert where people are literally dying of thirst outside his walls.
It's the ultimate display of imperial power and waste. It's meant to show that the Emperor's reach can defy nature itself.
But at this dinner, the tension isn't about the plants, it's about the guest list. You have the Baron Harkonnen, you have Parduk Kynes and young Liet, you have Reverend Mother Mohaim, and you have diplomats from two opposing great houses, all at the same table.
The diplomat from Grumman, a man named Lupino Ord, and the diplomat from Akaz, Bendik Narvi.
And these two houses, House Moritani of Grumman and House Ikaz, are in a blood feud, a Canley.
Right. Canley is the formal war of assassins. It's basically legal warfare with rules.
It sounds so bizarre, like we're going to murder each other, but first, let's file the proper paperwork.
It's the Imperium's pressure release valve. It's how the great houses blow off steam and settle scores without destroying the entire galactic economy. There are rules. You can kill specific targets, but you have to declare Canley, you can't use atomics, and you are supposed to avoid massive collateral damage.
But at this dinner, they are not following the rules of etiquette, let alone warfare. They start trading insults over the appetizers. The source says it was about fog tree sabotage.
Yes, the Moritani from Grumman apparently sabotaged these rare, valuable fog trees on Ikaz. It was an act of industrial sabotage. But then right there at the dinner table, in front of everyone, the Grumman ambassador pulls out a weapon.
A cutter disc. What is that exactly?
It's a small, flat projectile. Almost like a coin, but razor-sharp around the edge. It's fired from a hidden device. He throws it across the table. It slices through the air and embeds itself directly in the Akazi diplomat's face.
At a formal imperial banquet, with the Baron Harkonnen and the Reverend Mother watching, that is just insane audacity.
It kills him instantly. Chaos erupts. But here is the part that really shows you how broken the imperial system is. Count Fenring, who represents the Emperor himself, has to let the killer go.
Why? He just murdered a guy in front of 20 witnesses.
Diplomatic immunity. The killer, Lupino Ord, has the proper papers from his house. If Fenring arrests him, he creates a major diplomatic incident with House Moritani, one of the more powerful houses. So to keep the peace, he lets a murderer walk right out the door.
That feels so bureaucratic and weak. You commit murder and you walk away because of a loophole in the paperwork.
It shows the weakening grip of the emperor. The great houses are becoming bolder, more brazen. They are testing the boundaries of imperial law, and this act sparks a massive escalation. Later in the source material, Viscount Moritani, the leader of the Grumman House, doesn't just throw discs, he carpet bombs the Akazi palace,
Breaking all the rules of Canley.
shattering them, which forces Shaddam to send his own Serdakar to Grumman to try and keep the peace. He's being forced to act, to show his hand, which is the last thing a paranoid emperor wants to do.
So the galaxy is basically a tinderbox. You have the Harkonnens poisoning water supplies for fun, you have the great houses openly bombing each other, and the Emperor is unable to stop any of it.
And while all this very public, very loud fighting is happening, there is a much darker, much more dangerous secret bubbling under the surface. This is the mission we talked about at the beginning. This is Project Amal.
This is the big one. If the other stuff is the symptoms, this is the disease at the heart of the Imperium. To talk about it, we have to go to the planet Ix, or as it has been renamed by the Tleilaxu occupiers, Zutu.
The Tleilaxu invaded and occupied Ys, which was the great machine planet of House Vernius. They've renamed it Zutu, which they claim means new beginnings, but everyone knows it really means sorrow. It's a prison planet now.
And the atmosphere sounds incredibly claustrophobic. They live entirely underground in massive warrens. And to cope, they've created a fake holographic sky to make it look like their own smoggy homeworlds.
It's a counterfeit reality. It's a perfect metaphor for what they are doing there. And in this fake underground world, they are running Project Amal. The goal is simple, but universe-shattering. Synthetic spice.
Synthetic spice. You know, on the surface, that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? Breaking the Arrakis monopoly, making it cheaper.
In theory, yes. But look at who is doing it and why. The Emperor, Shaddam IV, is secretly funding this. He's partnering with the Bene Tleilax, a xenophobic, universally distrusted house, to undermine his own economy. Because if he can manufacture spice in a lab, he doesn't need Arrakis. He doesn't need the troublesome Fremen. He breaks the Spacing Guild's stranglehold on travel. He breaks the Bene Gesserit's leverage with their prescience. He becomes an absolute dictator with no checks and no balances.
It's the ultimate power grab. There is a great scene where Count Fenring goes to Ix to inspect the lab. He meets the head researcher, a Tleilaxu master named Hidar Fen Ajidica.
Ajidic is a fantastic character, so arrogant, so slippery. He shows Fenring a chemical vat filled with Amal. It looks like spice. It smells like spice. But the real question is, does it work?
And this is the aha moment for me in this whole plot line. The test. They bring out a baby sandworm. A real one, smuggled all the way from Arrakis in a sand-filled container.
Which is, by the way, illegal and incredibly difficult. You have to transport a sand trout or a small maker in a tank of its native sand without a single drop of water touching it. One drop and it's dead.
They place a sample of the synthetic spice near the worm. Now, normally, a worm would go absolutely crazy for spice. It's a biological imperative. It's their food, part of their life cycle.
But the worm rejects it. The text as it approaches, it senses the synthetic Amal, and then it recoils. It turns away.
That image gives me chills every time. Nature refusing to be counterfeited.
It's the central theme of the whole book, isn't it? You can build fake skies, you can build cyborg doctors, you can build synthetic spice. But the biological reality, the truth of the universe, will ultimately reject the fake. The worm knows it's poison.
But the Emperor is impatient. He's pouring billions of Solaris into this. He doesn't care if it works perfectly. He just needs it to work enough to fool the guild for a little while.
And meanwhile, there is a resistance on Ix. A very small one. We meet a character named Smidair Pilru.
Side is such a tragic figure. He's an Ixian native, the son of the former ambassador, hiding in the shadows of his own city. He's trying to sabotage the Tleilaxu, but it's small-scale stuff. Breaking a wire here, corrupting a data file there. And he's using these rogo transmitters to try and send a message to his brother, who is a guild navigator.
It feels desperate, hopeless even. You have this massive conspiracy involving the Emperor of the known universe and the Tleilaxu masters, and then you have one guy in a ventilation shaft trying to stop it all with a homemade radio.
But that's the Dune way, isn't it? Small acts of defiance. Sea Terror represents the will of the conquered people, just like the baby worm represents the will of nature. They are both resisting this artificial control.
Beautifully put.
Okay, we need a breather. We've been in Coriolis storms, Giedi prime slave pits, and creepy underground labs. Let's go somewhere that has actual fresh air. Let's go to Caladan.
It's like the book just lets you take a deep breath. We see Duke Leto Atreides, and the contrast with the other leaders is immediate and deliberate. Unlike the Baron, who is rotting in a dark room with a dead body, or the Emperor hiding in his paranoid palace, Leto is out on the docks.
He's wearing fisherman's clothes. He's eating breakfast with the common people at a seaside stall. He's accessible. He's loved. You can feel it through the page.
But there is a sadness here, too, a sense of impending change. His best fighter, a young Duncan Idaho, is leaving.
Duncan is going to the Sword Masters of Genaz for training. He'll be gone for 8 years.
And Leto gives him a gift. He gives him the old Duke's sword, the sword of Paulus Atreides, Leto's own father.
Why is that so significant? It's a nice gesture, sure.
Because Duncan is a commoner. He's an orphan from some backwater planet, giving him the ancestral weapon of the house. It's a huge statement. It's more than just a gift. It says, "You are family. You are my son in all but blood."
It cements that fanatical loyalty that the Atreides are famous for.
It's the core difference in their leadership styles. The Harkonnens rule by fear-making people into sheep, as Gurney said. The Atreides rule by inspiring loyalty.
But that loyalty, that sense of honor, it gets you into trouble too, doesn't it? Leto is harboring exiles. We meet Romber and Kylea Vernius, the children of the ruling house of Ajax that got kicked out by the Tleilaxu.
Right. And they're two sides of the same coin. Romber is the eternal optimist. He's described as disheveled, unshaven, convinced that ice will just fix itself eventually. He's a bit naive.
And Kylea is the opposite. She's bitter, she's cynical. She wants Leto to marry her so she can have power again and use the Atreides military to take back her planet.
Leto can't do that. Politically, he needs to stay available for a strategic marriage alliance with another great house. It's a trap for him. By harboring the Vernius children, he's making powerful enemies of the Tleilaxu, and by extension, the Emperor's secret partners in Project Amal. But he can't actually use the Vernius name to gain anything because they are political outcasts.
So he's taking all the risk for no reward just because it's the right thing to do.
It highlights the precarious position of House Atreides. They have honor, they have loyalty, they have the love of their people, but politically, they are isolated. And in the universe of the Imperium, isolation is incredibly dangerous.
Speaking of dangerous people with long-term plans, we have to talk about the Bene Gesserit. We get a little glimpse of their training with a very, very young Jessica.
She's 12 years old here, and the Reverend Mother Moham is training her in pranabindu muscle control. It's incredibly intense. The text describes an exercise of imagining a feather drifting on an infinite path, a way to achieve total body control.
But the real bombshell here is the lineage. The source material reveals something that Jessica herself doesn't know. Mahayam looks at her student and sees the Baron's features in her face.
This is the twist that defines the entire future of the saga. Jessica is the daughter of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohayam.
That creates such a messed up family tree. That means Paul Atreides. His grandfather is the Baron Harkonnen, the man who will try to destroy his family.
Exactly. And remember the disease we talked about, the retrovirus. Mohayam infected the Baron during the act of conceiving Jessica. So Jessica is quite literally the product of that violation and that hatred.
Why did the Bene Gesserit want Harkonnen genes mixed with Atreides genes? What was the goal?
They are trying to breed the Kwisatz Haderach, a male Bene Gesserit, a super being who can bridge space and time, who can see into both male and female ancestral memories. They have a breeding chart that goes back thousands of years.
And their calculations said they needed this mix.
They believed they needed the cruelty and the cunning of the Harkonnens mixed with the nobility and loyalty of the Atreides. They are trying to engineer a perfect human by combining the best and worst traits of the species.
They don't care about the wars, the Project Amal stuff, or the politics at all, do they?
Not really. Not in the way others do. To the Bene Gesserit, the squabbles between Ikaz and Moritani, or even the Emperor's lack of an heir, are just variables in their genetic breeding chart. They're playing a game that spans centuries while everyone else is playing for next year's spice profits.
So let's try to put this all together. Let's synthesize this. We have unpacked a lot of secrets here. We have the ecology of Arrakis waking up under Kynes' hand. We have the Baron rotting and plotting to become a cyborg. We have the Emperor funding illegal synthetic spice. And we have the Atreides trying to be the good guys in a very, very bad neighborhood.
It's a tinderbox.
Yeah.
That is the best and only way to describe the state of the Imperium at this moment. You have all these separate fires being lit. Kynes is destabilizing Arrakis with terraforming.
The Harkonnens are destabilizing the Great Convention by acquiring a traitorous Suk doctor and fueling hatred on their own world.
The Emperor is destabilizing the entire galactic economy with Project Amal.
And the Atreides, by being honorable, are destabilizing their own political safety.
It feels like everyone is trying to grab the steering wheel, but the car is already heading for a cliff at full speed.
And that brings us back to that quote from the source material. Secrets are an important aspect of power. Everyone we talked about today has a deep, dangerous secret. Kynes' secret garden, the Baron's secret disease, the Emperor's secret lab, Jessica's secret parentage.
But secrets have a way of getting out, or blowing up,
Right.
usually in the most catastrophic way possible.
Precisely. And I think the most powerful image to leave our listener with, the one that sums it all up, is that baby worm in the Talaxi lab on X.
It's perfect.
You have the most powerful men in the universe, the Emperor, the Talaxi masters, using all their technology and all their wealth to try and force nature to bend to their will. They want to manufacture the divine. They want to counterfeit God in a test tube.
And the worm, this simple primal creature, just turns away.
Nature says nope.
It raises a final question for you, the listener, to mull over. In a universe where everyone is plotting and scheming for control, who is actually in charge? Is it the Emperor on his golden lion throne? Is it the Baron in his keep? The Bene Gesserit with their charts? Or is it the storm, the worm, and the sand?
Something to think about. It seems like in the end, you just can't fake the real thing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden wars of the Imperium. We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep looking beneath the surface. There's always another secret.